Hey everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Kim Laboratory. Today, we are diving into a really crucial, hands-on explainer on how we actually measure environmental pollution. We're going to be looking at a fundamental test called chemical oxygen demand, or COD analysis. I am incredibly excited to guide you through this because it's some truly fascinating and impactful chemistry.
Let's kick things off by defining what we're actually looking at here. Chemical oxygen demand is defined as the amount of dissolved oxygen required to chemically oxidize the organic and inorganic matter in a water sample. Basically, COD is the ultimate benchmark for quantifying exactly how much organic pollution is contaminating a water source. It's pretty simple. The higher the COD value we measure in the lab, the more contaminated that water is out in the real world.
Now, you might be wondering, why do we use COD instead of its famous sibling metric, BOD, or biochemical oxygen demand? Well, this comparison shows exactly why the industry heavily prefers COD. You see, BOD relies on biological microbial breakdown, which is a natural process that takes an agonizing 5 to 7 days to complete. I mean, who has a week to wait around for results? Our chemical COD test uses strong oxidizing agents to deliver highly precise, actionable data in just 2 to 2.5 hours. That speed is absolutely vital for real-time monitoring.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the Dr. Kim Lab welcome. Hit the principle of COD analysis, go over apparatus, reagents, and safety, run through the digestion procedure, do the titration and calculation, and finally, interpret the water quality results. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. Welcome to Dr. Kim Laboratory, setting the macro-environmental stage.
Take a look at a massive pulp and paper facility like this one. Water-intensive industries generate enormous pollution loads, and their wastewater is just packed with suspended solids and dissolved organic matter. Our COD analysis is the exact tool they use every single day to monitor this effluent. It allows these plants to treat their water properly before it's discharged, completely preventing this industrial waste from destroying aquatic ecosystems, and, of course, saving the company from massive regulatory fines.
Section 2. The principle of COD analysis, the oxidation reduction chemistry.
Okay, so here's the core reaction, and it's actually pretty cool. In the standard dichromate method, we use the powerful bright orange dichromate ion as our primary oxidizing agent, and it sits in a strongly acidic medium of concentrated sulfuric acid. When we apply high heat, this orange dichromate relentlessly attacks the organic matter, literally oxidizing it into carbon dioxide and water. As this happens, the dichromate reduces itself into a green chromic ion. By measuring exactly how much of that orange dichromate was consumed, we can calculate how much organic matter was in our sample. But you know, real-world water samples are messy, so we need some chemical assistance. To make this oxidation reaction incredibly efficient, we rely on silver sulfate as a catalyst. This speeds up the oxidation of even the most stubborn organic substances. But at the exact same time, we have to add mercuric sulfate to the flask, which serves as a crucial defensive shield against interferences. So why do we need a defensive shield? Well, it all comes down to what we call the chloride problem. Wastewater is almost always full of chloride ions. Without mercuric sulfate in there to mask them, chloride would react with our silver catalyst and precipitate it straight out of the solution. Even worse, the dichromate would oxidize the chloride into chlorine gas, which artificially inflates our oxygen demand readings. So mercuric sulfate prevents this false positive, ensuring our data is perfectly accurate.
Section 3. Apparatus, reagents, and safety. Gearing up for hazardous chemistry.
We've got our rapid-fire checklist of gear here for the traditional dichromate reflux method. We're going to need our specialized reflux flasks and cooling condensers to trap those boiling vapors. For absolute precision, volumetric pipettes and burettes. As for our chemical arsenal, we need standard potassium dichromate, concentrated sulfuric acid laced with our silver sulfate catalyst, mercuric sulfate powder, standardized ferroammonium sulfate, or FAS, as our titrant, and just a few drops of ferron indicator.
Listen, before we mix even a single drop, we need to talk safety, because this stuff is no joke. Look at this quote directly from our laboratory sources, toxicity high. We are dealing with boiling concentrated sulfuric acid, highly toxic hexavalent chromium in the dichromate, and hazardous mercury compounds. Safety goggles, heavy-duty gloves, fume hoods, and incredibly strict hazardous waste disposal protocols are absolutely mandatory for this explainer.
Section 4. The digestion procedure. Heating things up in the reactor. This is where the chemistry truly happens.
Step 1. We meticulously measure a known volume of our water sample into the digestion tube and mix it with mercuric sulfate powder to block those pesky chlorides. Step 2. We add our exact volume of potassium dichromate reagent, followed by a very slow, very careful addition of the sulfuric acid reagent. Finally, step 3. We attach the flasks to a condenser or drop our tubes into a heating block and digest the mixture at roughly 150 degrees Celsius for 2 full hours. This intense, brutal environment breaks down 95 to 100% of the oxidizable organic compounds.
If you trace our overall workflow here, you can see exactly how we move from prepping those samples, adding our oxidants and highly acidic catalysts, right through to that high-heat reflux stage. Once those 2 hours are finally up, we have to carefully allow the flask to cool all the way down to room temperature before we can move on to the final analysis phase.
Now, any good chemist knows you absolutely need a control. Enter the blank determination. This means we have to prepare a parallel sample using pure, clean, distilled, or deionized water instead of wastewater, and we digest it under the exact same heat and acid conditions with the exact same reagents. This gives us a baseline of how much dichromate is present when there is literally zero organic pollution in the flask. We absolutely need this baseline to accurately calculate the mathematical difference later on.
Section 5. Titration and calculation measuring the remaining oxidant.
So our 2 hours are up. How do we read the results? Well, depending on your lab setup, you have two main options. The more modern colorimetric method uses a COD photometer to directly measure the concentration of the newly formed green chromic ions. But for our classic benchtop explainer today, we are going to use the titrometric method. We're going to manually measure the unreacted, leftover dichromate using a careful titration.
This is honestly the most satisfying part of the lab. First, we add 2 to 3 drops of our ferroin indicator to the cooled sample. Next, using a burette, we carefully drip in our standardized FAS titrant. You want to keep your eyes totally locked on the flask here. We are waiting for a highly specific endpoint. We are looking for that dramatic, exact moment the solution snaps from a blue-green color to a stark reddish-brown. The volume of FAS we use to hit that precise color shift is what allows us to calculate the final chemical oxygen demand.
Section 6. Interpreting water quality results. Translating lab data to real-world impact. So what do our numbers actually mean? By comparing our hard-won lab results against standard environmental thresholds, we can instantly classify the health of a water body. If our reading is under 30 milligrams per liter of oxygen, we are looking at clean, healthy water. Between 50 and 150, we have moderate pollution that definitely needs some attention. But if our calculation reveals a COD over 500 milligrams per liter, we are dealing with a highly polluted threat. Discharging water like that would severely deplete the oxygen in local rivers, literally suffocating the aquatic life. This whole process right here, it's the absolute backbone of global environmental compliance. Facilities use COD analysis constantly to optimize their wastewater treatment plants and monitor industrial effluent before it ever touches nature. It's actively used by agencies like the EPA and WHO to hold industries accountable, ensuring they meet strict discharge limits and protect our fragile ecosystems. It is genuinely one of the most important routine analyses in environmental chemistry.
As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to ponder. We've seen the toxic chemicals, the extreme heat, and the precise math required to measure pollution in a single flask. So I have to ask, how rigorously is the wastewater in your own community being monitored before it reaches your local rivers or lakes? What invisible chemical tests are being run right now to protect the water flowing through your own city? Thank you so much for joining me in the lab today. Keep asking great questions, and I'll see you in the next explainer.